Sigma car. I myself, Janela Albines, I am serving as a current treasurer. And our highlight of the day, the very talented guest speaker from Seattle, Washington, D.C., Ms. Linda Thomas. We welcome you, Ms. Thomas. Linda is a retired technical fellow and systems safety engineer at Boeing Defense Space and Security. Her latest position was BDS Chemical Risk Assessment Leader. As a native of Washington, D.C., Ms. Linda has received a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from Howard University and a master's in system architecture and engineering from University of Southern California. He has been recognized by National Society of Black Engineers as Celestial Turk Outstanding Women in Aerospace. Other numerous recognitions are mentioned here in the bio that will show up in the screen. And without further ado, I will pass on the spotlight to Ms. Thomas to share a few words.
Sure. Hi. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to meet you all. Even though it's virtual, if it hadn't been a pandemic, I probably would have flown out to spend some time with you. How are you all today?
Doing good, good.
It's cold here in Colorado, so that's why I'm kind of bundled up right now, y'all. So forgive me.
Yeah, it's cold here in Seattle too. I doing my winter gardening already, so.
Oh yeah.
It just warmed up like crazy in DC. It's like 80 degrees today. It's awesome.
What?
I know.
Oh, lucky.
Look at you.
We are just getting colder days here in Oklahoma, thankfully.
It's 70 degrees in Southern California. Nice. Perfect.
Yeah, those are temperatures I haven't seen in a few weeks. Yeah, so I'm really glad to be here, and I thank for Sigma for inviting me. I thought I was going to be one of several speakers, but so I'm assuming it's just me tonight, right?
That's right.
That's right. Okay, so I'm going to just talk a little bit about my engineering philosophy that I had since day one, and then I'm going to open it up to questions. So as Sigma Janela mentioned, I was a chemical risk analyst, and what I did, I looked at the global environmental regulations as they applied to the aerospace industry. But this is something that can apply to any industry because the materials we use have downstream effects to the supply chain, to people, and what happens at the end of life. What do we do when we no longer use them? We have to dispose of them or find something else to do. And one of the things that developed my personal tagline was the decisions you make in engineering and business drive safety and environmental performance. And I told people, I said it's not just manufacturing, it also applies to software, because when you think about software and the Internet of Things, autonomous vehicles, software plays a role in how we interact, and the ultimate goal is everyone comes out safe, and that the end product can be reused at least more than once before we finally find we have to find a way to reclaim it or dispose of it. We want to avoid landfills in the next 50 years because landfill space is at a premium, and that's something that I noticed as my career progressed. For example, Boeing uses a lot of carbon reinforced composites for their airplanes. In fact, their 787 is a carbon fiber composite fuselage. And if you think about what an aluminum airframe is, it's almost like a soft drink can, almost not as quite as thin as a soft drink can, but it's the same principle. Now just think if a composite is about the same thickness, but it's about 30% lighter. That's why they want to use these composites. One some of the things that Boeing had to do when they started making composite aircraft was they had to look at ways to recycle that scrap, and they have found some innovative ways of reusing that composite material in other ways that could not possibly use in the aircraft. So those are some examples of how we think ahead. Also, we have to think about how people interact with products or with manufacturing, building things, testing things, and we want to make sure that when they test, that they are able to safely test to the intended use of that product. And I'm finding out that more software and technology companies, in fact, I was looking in the ads in the local Seattle ads, and I think Facebook, Microsoft, and Amazon were all looking for system safety engineers, and I have no intention of going back to work now that I've retired. I like my retired life too much. And so the other thing I wanted to talk about, like you're in college and you have this tremendous opportunity, the pandemic, I know it sounds like a bummer about distance learning. I did my master's on distance learning 20 years ago. And, I kind of thrived in that environment because I was working full time. My son was 3 years old. And I said, I got to make this all balance. And I really feel for the students now because I did this by choice. You really didn't have a choice to do this. So what I wanted to say is, try to embrace that opportunity and learn how to build tools that will enable you to thrive in an online environment. I'll tell you some examples. I did my master's, it was in systems architecture and engineering from University of Southern California, and they had been doing this program for Boeing for several years, and I thought, I put the master's thing off. But when I started doing it, I recognized time management was of the essence. I was taking one class at a time. I know when you're in college, you don't have that option, but I looked at this was at another class in addition to my work because I was fairly involved at my job. I had several major assignments. So I looked at time management as a tool. I looked at balancing my life as a tool, especially when I had a young child, and my husband was taking care of him when I didn't have time, and then I had to schedule my time to make sure I had enough study time built into my workday. So, lunchtime at work was study time, and after my son's bedtime was study time, or if things really got hectic, I go to bed with my son at 7 or 8 o'clock, wake up at midnight and work till 5, go back to bed and get up at 7 and go to work. That type of thing. So I had to figure out how to balance my life, but I also had to take care of myself. For example, you in this environment with this pandemic, I know this sounds so. It sounds so. How could I describe? It sounds so dire because you're not able to go out and socialize. You can see very few people, but it's a point of survival. And your goal is, if you are here because someone in your family survived that 1918 pandemic, and you want to be on the other side of that pandemic so your grandchildren or any of your successors in your family can say, well, my relative survived this 2020 pandemic. So you have to have that survival mindset. I mean, and being retired, I'm really busier than I had planned to be at work because I got involved in several activities. I'm very highly involved in Society of Women Engineers. I grade and assess award applications, scholarship applications. I'm on the SWE Senate, so I'm reviewing strategic policy for the society. I'm also associated with the International System Safety Society. We have a conference going on next week, and it overlaps with SWE, so I have a schedule challenge. I got to make sure I don't miss any important meetings that I have to be at. And my goal with the Safety Society, is that I'm involved with member services, trying to make sure people get the most value out of their membership. So that's another thing. I'm working with a little nonprofit in Washington, D.C., and Someone said talk about music stuff too. Well, before the pandemic, I played clarinet and bass clarinet, and I played in 4 groups. And early January, I think January or February, I had 2 concerts, and I was practicing for 2 until it suddenly got cut off around March the 3rd. So now, part of my survival strategy is like I practice every day, and I will not go out. I don't care what the studies say. I said I am real. I am retired, and my husband's older than I am, so we have to think about being senior citizens, being more vulnerable. So there's no incentive for me to go out and play. Some of my friends do. They have to play in very controlled environments, but I find joy in just playing. If I don't play, I'm listening. So those are those survival strategies I've had. And when I'm not playing music, I work in my garden. Today I had to play barter and trim these huge fuchsia plants, and my husband built a little shed for them, so they're all in for dormancy. And come next spring, I'm going to revive them, and hopefully they'll be as big as they were this year. They were just tremendous. And then to document what I do, I'm into photography. So I have bought a camera, a DSLR. I'm a late adopter, but 5 years ago, and I've bought a couple more because I want to have more access to my tablets and things when I'm on the road taking pictures. So I take pictures of my fuchsias and the plants I grow, and then I also go to gardens. So that's how you keep yourself busy, because you want to think about balancing your life and making sure you live your best life as you go through college, and then as you transition into what you want to do post-college. You may want to go to government, probably want to stay in academia, or you want to go in industry, or in the military. So the opportunities, you will find more opportunities coming out of this pandemic than you imagine, because now we're thinking about ventilation, or you have to look at new ventilation challenges, because some of the existing ones we have are not conducive to a pandemic environment when you're looking at a novel virus that has a very easy spread. So I would say, look at this as an opportunity. So I'm ready to answer. So that ends my talk. So I'm ready to answer some questions. So let's see. Let's see. So somebody asked the question, how did you keep yourself relevant in industry, and how did I expand my technical skill set? That's an excellent question. I'll tell you, that was really much what I did. When I started out at Boeing, I was a materials engineer, and I was working on some electrical materials. Some of it was really nasty stuff, and at that time, there were not as many controls on disposing of hazardous materials. However, as the years went by, Boeing had to get involved because the regulations were tightening up, where they had to have a solution for how would they dispose of certain materials, and their rules for disposal were also dynamic, and they continue to be dynamic. So that's when I started getting involved in the environmental regulatory aspects. And then I was a corrosion control engineer on a prototype fighter plane, was called the F-22. And what I was responsible for was looking at galvanic corrosion on structural materials. So we had to do a lot of corrosion studies between aluminum and graphite reinforced composites. So if you know the electrochemical series, that's not a really great combination. So we had to look at how do we finish the aluminum so it doesn't degrade when it's bumped up against graphite in a galvanic corrosion situation. So I got through with that. I did some research, and around the same time, I started talking with people, getting involved on projects that had to do with some environmental things, and I started studying what these regulations were, and all of a sudden someone said, hey, how about you come work with us and do some work on this hazardous waste environmental study? I said, okay, I'll try it out. And, it was really valuable, because I didn't spend an entire year on it, because the F-22 program called me back to pioneer how do you incorporate design for the environment in product design. So I started doing that, and I was transferred into a system safety organization. And that's the one I retired from maybe 20, 30 years later. But what happened in that period of time was, as I got visibility to other things, and then at the same time I'm reading the journals. There's no internet at the time, so what you got was, if you got a book from the library or journals, periodicals, that was my life. I've subscribed to trade magazines, and newsletter articles, and also getting information from our environmental people on regulatory actions that could potentially affect what we did. And through my career, I always became a continuous learner. And up until when I started working on my master's, I always took classes. I took programming classes to keep up with the technology, because we also did programming, and some of the things we do are software controls. I had to understand all that. So, and by the time I got this job as the chemical risk assessment lead, I told somebody, this is a Venn diagram of all my experiences. This was really exciting. I pretty much walked into the job cold, but I made the job what I wanted to. But I really was able to exercise my tagline. So how's that answer, Simi?
Oh, it's great. Because that's just something that I think people need to understand, is that having a bachelor's degree is just not enough anymore. And you have to you have to do things to keep yourself relevant. And that's either getting a master's, getting certifications,
Correct.
Just opening your mind to any kind of new opportunity that someone might present to you. So.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to talk about one career regret, and this is my biggest, and I use it as a selling point since you're all still in college. I didn't take the FE while I was in college. In fact, it was held the day I graduated from college. If I had a choice, I would have been at the exam. And I waited too many years before I took it. And by the time my career's on the move, I didn't really need it. But it would have been nice to have, because I would have had an option to go out and be an entrepreneur if I had. So take the FE, get your PE, because that gives you more options. You can be an entrepreneur. You can also work on the legal circuit as an expert witness in your field. So that's my selling point. Please take your FE as soon as you can. And definitely consider doing the PE, regardless of where you go. Even in academia, you can probably use it as a side gig. So
I didn't take my FE, so it's too late for me. Not gonna, but don't listen to me.
Okay, me neither, Summer. I didn't take it either.
Yeah, I was done after college. I was done. I was like, I need a mental break. I'm finished.
I didn't take it either.
You didn't take it either?
No, don't listen to us.
Don't take it in college, because if you try and take it later, it's not fun. My husband did take it before he graduated as a mechanical, and he all the time rubs it in that he took it, he's done with it, he doesn't have to mess with it. And he's like, you're 5 years out, you have fun studying for it. Like,
what does he want, a cookie?
Right? I think so.
We are still preparing for it, and some of the students, they do have this question, so thank you for covering that up. But again, from what you all are talking, I feel like by the time we graduate, we should have taken it, right? That's like the best time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's when the subject knowledge is fresh.
How terrible is the math in that?
So Haley asked, what was my experience earning an education and working in such a predominantly male environment? Was it intimidating? If so, how did you deal with it? Well, it wasn't really that intimidating. I was the only girl of 3 children. So if that wasn't enough to be intimidating. And once I got out in industry, I knew how to roll with the punches, and I also knew what battles I was willing to pick with dealing with men. And my husband's an engineer, so it's like I'm leaving a predominantly, I call it predominantly male environment because I had a son, and then I go to work. So I think my mindset was I was not going to allow my dignity to be demeaned, regardless of who was trying to demean me, and that goes for males and females. There was one really interesting situation in my F-22 job, and I was in this materials engineering group, and all the guys would go and play poker on weekends, and they never really invited me, but then I didn't ask to go because I'm a lousy card player. And so this behavior happened for a while, and I just really didn't pay attention to it, and because I said, that's something I'm not into. But then a second woman joined the group, and then they decided, we should have more inclusive family type things. And actually we had a pretty good time doing that because we would go to football games, we would go out to lunch together, and we still get together now, 30 years later. Our boss still, the guy I work for, we play Words with Friends, and he has an email list of this group, and so. And it's it was kind of predominantly male group, but there's still a few women. But I was really fortunate for the most part of my career not to have dealt with men that did not want me there. I did have one situation that I had to deal with, and there was this guy, and he was a bigot. He was bigoted to women, and he was bigoted to minorities. And one day he crossed my path, and I think he lived to regret it because. I'll tell you the situation. We're talking about an aircraft design that passengers are going to be on, and we're talking about that these are just a specialty aircraft, and we're talking about power systems aboard the aircraft. So we're talking about the power load, the distribution in the passenger area, and this guy says, is it going to be too much for the ladies in their hair dryers? And I gave him the look that could kill. I said, I'm not talking about hair dryers, I'm talking about laptops. And so the room went silent because they said, like, oh man, he should never have said that to her. And then he looked at me after the meeting and says, did I say something sexist? I said, well, what do you think? Hey, yeah, so now it really depends on the part of the country, because I know that in some parts of the United States, some men can feel like they have some traditional views on what women are, and you have to come out with a position that you're going to respect me and I'm going to respect you, and there should be no reason to behave any other way than that. It's just good business practice, and I'm hoping that the trend in our country changes so that women are continued to be respected. I'm reading the stories from SWE where it's not really happening, and we really have to stop that. And I mentor women continuously to help them how to navigate. And sometimes it's not just men. There could be women that cannot be acceptive of other women as if we're competition, and that's totally uncool too. So, are there any other questions that come from that?
I was just gonna, if you don't mind, if I kind of add on a little bit. I'm the only female in my entire division, so I kind of understand. I work for the Navy, so half my job I'm out on the ships, which is can be a very strange place being a woman. Just because, especially like shipyards and stuff like that, it's predominantly men. Plus, all of the engineers I work with are all men. And kind of what you said with coming in as the only female, and they were having a poker night, doing this whole thing. And I kind of came in, and the last girl that had been in the division that left previous to me really didn't want anything to do with the guys. So they just assumed when I came in, oh, she doesn't want anything to do with us either. We'll just leave her out. And sometimes it kind of, I feel like as women we can kind of step out and say like, hey, I do want to be a part of that. Hey, I do want to, you know, kind of set that precedent of I am interested. I am, you know, I want to be part of the group, part of the team. And sometimes that kind of helps set the stage for how you want to be treated.
Yeah, and that's some of the things we did as part of that group. I did say, hey, well, what are you going to do X day? And after a while, it was not as exclusive as it was in the beginning, and like I said, it resulted in some long lasting friendships because they knew I was there for business and I'm also there for pleasure. And we did work hard. We played hard because I think one of the things that happened while I worked on that project was that the machinists had gone on strike, so so we all had to work long hours and try to get things done in this absence of the production strike. And it was, and we had to go out to dinner together. We had to eat lunch at the same time. So it was one of these, you're actually forced into that situation. And I think we came out with a degree of mutual respect. And I said, like I said, but some groups do not behave that way. And I know it's probably tough for women who are the only ones in that department or even in the entire company because you're trying to find a connection. And sometimes, even in the 21st century, you got men that think women should be at home. Well, see, that's not happening. Sorry, the world has moved on.
I usually deal with it by the surprise face and saying, they let us get degrees now. I don't know. It's usually my response.
Yeah.
I guess I'm gonna use that from now on.
I think, I mean, at least in my experience, so I'm in manufacturing at Ball Aerospace in Colorado.
Yeah.
And I am the only Black female engineer in the manufacturing and in the tactical systems. And it's not as bad as you think, but it's not great.
So I wanted to ask you a question, Sumi. So did you go to that Hidden Figures debut event a few years back?
Well, I've only been at Ball for 3 years.
3 years.
So.
It would have been about well, I think it was January 2017. So
I might have missed it, but I have issues with that movie, so I might not be a good candidate to even talk about it because I'm just like, really, Disney? Really? Like, they got an Academy Award? Like, I don't think that movie deserved it, but whatever. I digress.
we'll have to talk on the side about that.
Yes, we will. I would love to have that conversation. But I mean, at least in my experience, you know, Colorado in general is just not very diverse.
Right.
And that comes with its own issues. But that being said, I'm generally outspoken anyway. And even in my interviews, I really emphasize the fact that I am about open communication and constructive feedback, you know, from my entire team, you know, whether it be my manager, whether it be the technicians that I work with, the test engineers, you know, I need to understand if my work or what I'm doing is, you know, facilitating the program in the right direction.
Sure.
So for me, I have had good experiences with, you know, some of the guys. And I also, just generally speaking, I like to show my appreciation towards people just because depending on what they do, especially at work, they don't have to help you. They don't have to go above and beyond, right? But when I got there, you know, a lot of these people were going above and beyond for me in order to make me feel comfortable, understand the program, understand the processes, you know, understand the culture of Ball. And I really appreciate that. So I just would have those open conversations. I would hang out with some of them. I did have 2 issues with some older gentlemen, not necessarily people my own age, but older gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
And I handled that accordingly. I will go into it after this Zoom meeting, but
No, I know what you're talking about. I did happen to tour Ball when I was there 3 years ago, and it was really kind of interesting.
tour.
The part where in Boulder where they had the James Webb telescope development.
Yeah, I work in Westminster and AMC. I don't work in Boulder yet.
Yeah, that's where you want to go though.
I would like to work on space programs, yeah, eventually.
Okay, cool. So
we have some more questions.
Asked me, what are some good memories from your college days? Graduation. It's like I went to Howard, but you know what? I went there. I think Kamala came to Howard maybe about a year or so after I graduated, so I would never have met her. And I haven't really been back on campus much since I left. I would say study groups and feeling good after surviving an engineering class were probably the good days. And then another one was I had this organic chemistry professor. I loved organic chemistry. I was gonna say I see my organic notes I still have from many years ago, but he was he made me learn the mechanics of organic chemistry, and it really was important in aerospace, because when I was dealing with reading some of these regulations, when they talked about some of these chemicals, I could actually draw them, and it helped some of the other engineers with understanding. I said, well, they're talking about this particular substance, but you got to be careful about the way you pronounce it, because if you spell it the wrong way, you got a totally different compound. So I think my chemistry classes were fun. My engineering lab classes were fun. Work, studying for exams, not so fun. But graduation was really fun because I was gone. So Dr. Mimi asked me, are those gears in your earrings? And the answer is yes. I bought these last year at the SWE conference, WE 19. I think it was the University of North Dakota section was selling them, and it was really cool. I bought several pairs and gave some to friends. What they said, they just bought a bunch of gears off of Amazon and some jewelry findings, and they spent a day making earrings. And I think it's a great idea. So anytime I do a SWE event, I wear these earrings.
So do they have a instructions for it? Because I want to do that as a project with some girls. Yeah, but are they metal or wood?
Oh, they're metal.
So they bought gears, yeah, but then I want somebody to tell me where to buy the parts and stuff. I don't want to have to do the research.
Hey, tell you, let's talk offline, because I can tell you how to reverse engineer these. These aren't hard to do.
Yeah. Okay.
And the problem is another good question. What are some soft skills that help you in your long span career? One is persistence, never giving up, trying to throw in the towel. I'll tell you, the biggest one was going for the technical fellowship. So it started out. So I was at Boeing when they first started the fellowship, because they really never had a technical career path, and I said, I want that. And the first manager that told me that, he just laughed. He said, well, you're not working on anything that's going to get you the tech fellow. I said, okay. I was not determined. I said that just made me even madder, and said, I'm determined. I'm getting the fellowship. And I've been doing some house cleaning, like my files and my computers, and I'm looking at these files from 2002, my report. I haven't been looking at the technical fellowship that long, and it wasn't until one manager said, you should think about putting some time into this. And and at the time I'm working on my master's, and I'm like, okay, I'll do it. But I didn't really get serious about it till after I finished the master's degree. And I got, and this is where you see some of these men come out with these, I would say it was more nitpicky, about what my content was. And the more I did it, the more I got frustrated, but I still got determined. I said, I'm not going to give up on this because this is something I really want. And so I had one interview and I totally bombed it. And the manager that was with me said, yeah, it really didn't go well. I said, okay. So I asked for feedback about what possibly went wrong. And I was like, so this guy says, well, you shouldn't, he said, you shouldn't end a paragraph with a quote. I said, well, what? I said, what's that got to do with anything? I said, I'm trying to summarize what I did. And I said, well, next time I write this, will you come and help me? Oh, sure. I never heard from that guy again, but I'm still determined. And so the second time, I would say it was actually the third time. The very first time, I just totally dropped out because my son needed occupational therapy. And I said, I'm going to spend my time with that. So the last time I did it, a friend of mine gave me a package that another guy did that she said, this is the way he wrote it. You should write yours like his. I was at work from 12:30 and I stayed at work until like past midnight. Got it done and had the interview and I got in. But I was determined that some of my friends tried to get to Tech Fellow and it took them 2 tries. I said, Linda's doing this once. And so some of the things that I did in terms of being persistent, I asked questions, I got involved with mentoring people, helping them write papers, or writing papers of my own, giving presentations, doing things like this, and also making myself available to other people who needed my help. So when it came time to for my own interview, I had also been on other boards because now I was on the other side questioning people about why they wanted to be in the fellowship. So by the time I got to my TF interview, I was on fire. And I got it on the first time. I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. So it was just persistence, dogged persistence. I mean, it was like for my master's degree, there were times I'm like, why did I do this? I have this young kid that needs his mom time. And I said, so what do I do? So I said, I have to make these things work. So I would say persistence was the biggest one. Also I think it was self-care. Also having empathy and also being kind to people. Because there's some people that there's some people that just be plain nasty, and I'm not about nasty at work, because sometimes you have to work together because you're trying to reach a goal for your company to be successful, and there's no time for drama. There is no time for drama. So my recommendations are the soft skills are just as important. However, there's one little thing about this soft skill thing that be aware about being women. Some people will misconstrue your soft skill strengths as you wanting to go into management, even if that was not your goal. So sometimes you might have to say, I know I have these skills, but they serve me well in engineering, and I would rather stay in the engineering. But if you have really the soft skills that help you propel into management, that's goodness too. So that's something to watch out for. Just being persistent, and also use the skills of kindness, respect, and dignity that are really important to helping achieve a goal. So let's see another one. How important is being part of societies and college groups for career development and also professional development too? Yeah, so I was a member of NSBE and SWE when I was in college, and I think I was an officer for NSBE. I don't think I was an officer in SWE. But what I learned about that was it was a safe place to practice my leadership skills. And you get to use those soft skills that I just talked about in working with volunteers. And that's going to be the factor in the success of your society, of your organization. You get contacts, you can get help from people you would never have thought of. You'll find out there are faculty that will support you in your in your career development. You get job fair insiders that some of your student friends may not get it. So I say it does play a part to show that you have done something. Also, I just finished reviewing some applications for a SWE award, for the WE local awards. And another thing is, you get to practice your writing skills and communication skills on how you can communicate with others. So I find there's so many things that you can use with your society membership, and also outreach to the community to help others along. And that's something that I did, all through my college and my professional career, was, looking at helping others so that they can also succeed. And that's why I feel I grew my success by helping others succeed. So Dr. Mimi asked me, did I play in the orchestra in college too? Oh no. I tried to I started out as a pre-med major at Howard because they really didn't have a pre-veterinary program, and I was just totally bored. And then I think what drove me into engineering was I wanted to take engineering physics and engineering calculus, but I wouldn't get credit for it with a zoology degree. And then that's when I said, adios zoology, engineering, here I come. And my friend's like, oh, don't do engineering, you're jumping from the frying pan into the fire. I said it can't be any worse than what it is now. So I didn't really play, I think probably after my first year in engineering till I graduated. I didn't do any music. I went to concerts, but I didn't play. But once I left, I got back into music. And I've been playing ever since. I played something ever since. I started out with a flute. I was a vocalist in the church choir, and then I got back on clarinet, and that's what I've been at for the last 30-something years. Haley, she says, I'm interested to hear what Sumi has to say about Hidden Figures. I studied calc with that movie playing in the background quite often as inspiration.
Okay, y'all.
You know what?
We gotta get into this now.
No, that's okay. I learned some things about Hidden Figures. I said, oh, well, they didn't cover that in the movie.
Right. I think it was just I think Disney was the one that commissioned the movie. Well, and it was just over the top. And I feel like it left a part of like the nitty gritty of what those women had to face. And not only an all male dominated industry, which is NASA, but also they were Black women. And it just seemed like, oh, I dealt with racism. It was bad, but you know what? There was that one white guy that went to the whites only bathroom and ripped it down. Like, oh, real?
Yeah, that was drama. I came with I had those same thoughts. I was like, no, it didn't happen like that. And I'll be honest with you. I'm 63, and my family is from Virginia. And when I was young, my parents shipped us off down there for summer vacation. It was not a vacation because there were still vestiges of segregation then. And if I saw that as a 5-6-year-old, can you imagine what grown people had to go through? I mean, I even saw the signs of segregated bathrooms. And this one town, the town where my father grew up in, the schools were totally they were segregated because as soon as the integration call from Brown versus Board of Education, all the white families moved their children out of the public schools and had their own private academies. Mm-hmm. So yes, I thought Hidden Figures, the real story, was somewhat Hollywoodized to make it palatable to the general audience, but I knew that my parents and my grandparents went through a lot harder stuff in Virginia, and the town of Virginia where they grew up in was maybe about 30 or 40 miles west of Hampton area. So,
sorry, I have to interrupt, and we're almost cutting out of time.
Yeah.
I will proceed to give Sigma to thank Miss Linda on behalf of all of us.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. It was a great talk. Thank you for sharing all your experiences. We
Sure.
learned a lot from you today.
All right, I'm glad to be part of it.
And
So-
before we wind up, I would definitely add just a little bit to it that yes, you will see so many like men in this field who will try to pull your leg. But so far, what I have seen, I must agree that you also get men who are there to help you, lift you up. So there, you just gotta find the good ones and then learn from them and move up the ladder. And
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. You're going to find different ranges of people some who will not help you and some who will absolutely help you, because I think some of my best mentors were male.
exactly.
So-
And so, speaking of that, we actually got a huge support today from the ASME club here at UCO. I would like to especially thank Noe Enriquez, one of the former officers who is still handling ASME remotely, and the guests who joined through ASME, Adam Alba Hadley and DeCarlo Brewster. And thanking you for joining in. We would move on.
Okay.
So, while I am thanking everyone, not to forget my officers, I've got a great team this time, I must say. I have been part of SWE since my sophomore year, and I will graduate coming May. And this team that I got now is just so wonderful. They make my job much easier over here. So, giving a shout out to our Vice President, Shu Earn Wee. She could not be with us because she has to attend her analogs lab. She is a chemistry major with a minor in engineering. Our treasurer, Janila Albines Chavez, you have heard from her. She has been helping with moderating for tonight's event. So thank you, Janila. She's serving as our treasurer and she's a biomedical engineering major. Then we have Janina Albines Chavez. They are sisters, of course, as you would guess, and she is a computer science major. She is our digital media head. She has developed all the contents, flyers, advertisements that have gone into this. Not to forget our advisors, Ms. Asal Alawi and Dr. Nazreen Alspu. They have been constantly giving me tips, helping me for different events. Again, Poway SweNext team from California, Dr. Mary Isaac, Miss Tracy Gwen, and Miss Marilyn Gwen. And I must say, since I have met with them, they are just a huge support from California, all the way from the West Coast. Getting that much support means a lot. A lot. It helped me boost my spirit up to develop this club so far. UCO Engineering Department, our chairman, Dr. Charles Hughes, and our engineering physics coordinator, Dr. Ait Musa. And then I'm going to pass on the mic again to Janila to moderate from here on.
Thank you, Sigma. Finally, we are presenting the names of the alumni who joined this initiative. First, we have Ms. Carissa Huffman. I will let them speak a little bit. And if you have any questions, you can write them on the chat too. Would you like to say something?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Carissa Huffman. I graduated from UCO in 2017. I was an officer for SWE for a couple of years. I graduated with an engineering physics degree. I currently work at Tinker Air Force Base. I recruit computer scientists and engineers for the software engineering group. So you should hit me up if you want to apply. Sigma, do you want me to kind of provide a quick talk about what we talked about in the email?
I would definitely love that. We might go a couple of minutes over time, but the prompt questions that I asked, if you can answer to those, that would really help our current students.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just try to keep it brief so we can get through.
Thank you.
Yeah, so a couple of the Sigma asked for a few takeaways from when I was in school. So just really quickly, I know it's hard and there's a lot of effort, but it's all worth it. So keep going. I think a lot of times it can feel like you're never going to get there, and so you just want to give up, but don't. Just keep working. You'll get there. I think the skills that you learn in college, but also the people that you meet, will stay with you the rest of your life. Some of my best friends are the ones that I met in college, and a lot of us in the college engineering group that are still in Oklahoma, well, before the pandemic, would meet fairly regularly and still get together and see each other. It's a wonderful group of people that you meet in college, and leaning on each other and carrying each other through is just so important. I owe my degree to a few people that are on this Zoom call right now. I don't know if I could have gotten through some classes without them, so thank you. You know who you are. And then take every opportunity that you can, whether that's an internship or an officer position in a club. Like, just take all those opportunities to develop your career and keep pushing you forward. Just don't pass them by because you think you don't have time or because you don't think you're going to be good enough. Just always do it. Always take those opportunities. And then some advice from being in the professional world for a few years. You're not going to be going it alone most of the time when you're in the professional world. So learning to lean on your peers is a really good thing, and also being there for them as well. Most engineering departments and fields, it's group work, and so you really need to learn to work well with other people and learn to identify each other's strengths and appreciate them, and know your strengths and lean into them, because you have something special and wonderful about you that makes you stand out and makes you a better engineer than someone else, just like they have something different that makes them better. And just know that about yourself, and be sure and be ready to highlight that when you get out into the work world. That's all I have.
That was great. Good job.
Thanks, Summer.
That was amazing.
Make the rest of us look bad. She's already doing well. Thanks, Carissa.
Guys, I do this for a living. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much, Carissa, for those tips. I'm sure it's gonna help the students a lot. Moving on to Miss Summer Saidi. I hope I say the name right.
Saidi, yeah, that's pretty close. Okay, so my name is Summer Saidi. I graduated from UCO with a bachelor's in engineering physics with an emphasis in mechanical systems. Let's see, I graduated 2016, and I can honestly say that all of the physics things that I learned at UCO, I really don't use in my career right now. I'm a manufacturing engineer at Ball Aerospace, and I've been here for 3 years. While I was at UCO, I was president of the SWE chapter from 2014 to about 2016, and I have to honestly say that being in SWE and having like a goal that was outside of just graduating from college really helped me wake up in the morning and actually be on campus, because it was very difficult. Piper and Carissa witnessed this. Like, I was not a very good student at all. I actually don't like school because I'm a very kinetic learner. I would rather be out in the field getting my hands dirty than sitting in a classroom learning equations. It just wasn't conducive for me, and I did struggle a lot. And because of that, my GPA was awful. Like, it was very terrible. That being said, some of the best moments in college was having a goal, filling a void in our department that there really wasn't a lot of career development at the time. So I wanted to make that a priority for my group. So I would bring in engineers that would talk about interviewing tips, setting up your resume, because the resources that we had that were like the career services didn't cater to engineers. And the engineering department at UCO at the time was small. So I wanted to do something just for our engineering department. So that's kind of what I did and how I catered our at the time. I focused on getting our group to the SWE conventions, and how we did that was, what did we do, Piper? What did we do, Carissa? We made sandwiches.
We made sandwiches.
We made a lot of sandwiches.
We made a lot of food, and it actually turned out to be great because we had a lot of support. Was it a cliche? You damn right it was, but we made money. We also got money from UCO, from the department. We demonstrated that we were capable of contributing. So while I was president, we went to 3 conferences. And honestly, with my terrible GPA, I was able to land an internship at Northrop Grumman. Someone gave me a chance and I landed a summer internship. So, 2.9, girl, my GPA was much lower than that. When I tell you I struggled in school, I very much struggled in school. And I knew that it was going to be hard. So I developed my soft skills, I developed my communication skills, my networking skills, all through the Society of Engineers, because I had to make sure that the officers that were under me were also in line with my vision for the group at the time. And yeah, yeah, the struggle's real, y'all. And honestly, I had an amazing group. Like Piper, Carissa, Gila Azartosh, she's not here, but I worked with some amazing people. We collaborated and we got stuff done, and we actually made SWE a presence, at UCO. Like, we put our stamp. We designed sweatshirts and t-shirts. You guys are still selling those sweatshirts and t-shirts today, I believe. That's our legacy. And I'm so happy to see you guys perpetuating it today, because it was an uphill battle. I won't lie. And without those people supporting me and supporting me with SWE, like Piper even helped me with classes. I would not have been able to make it out alive.
Same.
But I will say, as a professional now, I've been in aerospace for 3 years. I can honestly say what has helped me the most is having an open mind and being willing to communicate and collaborate with your team, because engineering is very much a collaboration. Like, you cannot survive in this industry being a lone wolf. You have to learn to collaborate, which is very easy for me. That's something that I've done my entire life. And I will also say that if anyone is presenting you with an opportunity to learn something new and to expand your skill set, they are taking an interest in you and your career, and you should take that opportunity and run with it wherever it may go. Because even if it doesn't go very far, that's still something on your resume that is still demonstrating a capability to learn and to grow under any kind of circumstance. So I can just honestly say that if I can do it, anybody can do it. And if you guys ever need to reach out to me, and if you need help with anything at all, please reach out, because I do really love to mentor, and it's very hard to find people that are interested in your growth. So yeah, please reach out, and thanks for having me. That's all I got,
Thank you
y'all.
so much, Summer. Thank you for those words. Next, we have Mr. Matt Benton, but I think he could not make it to the meeting, so we will move on to Miss Piper Rose.
Hello, I'm Piper. I graduated UCO in 2016 as well with my bachelor's in electrical engineering. I'm one of those weird electricals, thank you. And I am this close to finishing my master's with Florida Institute of Technologies, also in electrical engineering. So I feel your pain with COVID and still being in college. It is not fun. Thankfully, mine was all distance learning though, so it hasn't been that much different. But it definitely would have made a big difference in the undergrad. So I feel for you guys. So I currently work for the DoD, specifically for the Navy at the Naval Test Warfare Center. So I design and test landing systems for UAVs. So getting UAVs to land on Navy ships is my job, and hopefully not crash. That is a good job. And everybody looks at you. No. So like Summer was saying, I also did not have a great GPA. I also graduated with a 2.9 GPA. And in the comments, there's a lot of good stuff. So I will tell you, and this is kind of, I'm skipping ahead a little bit just as an advice for if you have a GPA under 3.0, it is incredibly important right now for you to get out and actually talk to someone, because most of the computer softwares will just basically throw your resume away. If you don't have a 3.0 or a 3.5 or whatever they're looking for, you won't make it past the computer, and no one will ever see all of the extra things you bring to the table. And that is, it's heartbreaking. I do some recruiting for NavAir and go out and talk to people. And when you go out and when you log in the system, we get people that show up to a career fair, hand us their resume and go, I've been trying to get a job with you guys for years, and I never get a call back. Well, it's because we never saw their resume, because they had, it requires a GPA, and their GPA was under 3.0 or whatever it was. I also got my job at This Week Convention, so I interviewed with them. That was very interesting. So
I was there.
Yeah, Summer was there. I was like, I think I got a job, but I don't know, and it's kind of weird. It's a very odd experience. Living in Oklahoma, flying to DC for a job was an interesting experience. Very, very cool though. So just get out there, talk to people. So I guess things I wish I knew as an undergrad, or things advice as an undergrad, is you have so many classes and there are so many individual concepts that you learn, and you're not going to use all those concepts in your career. Like, it's just not going to happen. Don't labor and beat yourself up over not doing well in a test or not remembering a formula, or that's what Google's for. You can figure that out later. The big important things are really the concepts, and understanding the how and the why you do things the way that you do them has, at least for me, been a huge thing. I have an electrical engineering degree. I specifically focus on control systems and how they apply to aircraft. So the how and the why for me was such a big thing, because I need to be able to grow, those concepts I learned in college into what I'm actually using in my job. So don't beat yourself up over the little stuff and the tests and the details. Sometimes it's the big picture that you really need to focus on. And then advice as you're going in, I'll harp on it again. I think everyone said it, but soft skills, they're super, super, super important. As an engineer, engineers are hard to work with. Like, we all like to be the smartest in the room. We all like to know what's going on. Now you're going to put 15 of those people in a room and say, teamwork, go. It's not easy, and it doesn't get any easier. So I think just having the soft skills, resolving conflicts, learning how to present to people, how to talk to people. I can't count the amount of times that I'm in a group, everyone's done the same amount of work, but it comes to, hey, we need to present this to leadership, and everyone goes, ooh, yeah, I don't want to do that. I'm like, okay, I'll present to leadership. And then you're the one that people notice because you were willing to get up there and present the work. So work on the soft skills, work on your confidence, speaking, but also working with people. And then the only other thing I was going to say, so they talked about earlier, picking your battles professionally and personally. As women, it's an interesting workplace, but it can also be a lot of fun. I work with, a lot of guys, all of which are friends. I have a really great team, but it kind of took out, I needed to come in, be professional, show them I could do my job, show them I could do, what I needed to do. And then, it's a little easier to have that personal relationship once you're all on the same page. So that's huge. And then, look for a job that you like. I didn't know until I started job hunting how many jobs are out there and how many jobs I never would have thought of. I work as a flight test engineer, which is something I didn't even know existed before I started job hunting. I had a friend that did it, and he was like, "Oh, you should check this out. I think you'd really like it." And it's, my job to design things and then to break things. And it's a great job. I love it. But it's not something I had ever heard about, and it wasn't something that, none of the guest speakers that came were like, "Oh yeah, this is a job." So go out and find out about all the jobs out there, because there are so many different things that you can try out. And if you don't like something, find something you are passionate about, because it makes such a big difference. Finding something that you really care about, you're going to get up, you're going to go to work, you're going to enjoy what you're doing, no matter how much money. If you're not having fun, it it just doesn't work. So find something you want to do and something that you really enjoy. So
Well, thank you so much,
my
Piper.
spiel.
You guys are just giving so many nice tips. I'm just like doing thumbs up for all of you. Well, we'll move on next to Mr. Adam Albahadley.
Thanks, Sigma. Okay, so I'm not going to go too in depth over everything, but I just graduated last spring, so May 2020 graduate in mechanical engineering, and I just recently got a job about 2 or 3 months ago with the FAA in Oklahoma City, and really they hit every single point that I could possibly talk about. But just to reiterate, I mean, throughout my college career, I guess you could call it, the biggest thing for me was getting an internship, in my opinion, because I was able to keep those contacts and broaden them. So if you guys have any of those opportunities or you see any flyers posted, even if you're not super interested in the actual job, I would talk to people, just try and get your name out there, because I don't think there's anything more important than getting those contacts early and showing that you're up for the position and stuff like that. It's pretty much all I have for advice. Again, don't worry too much about GPA and stuff. People are always going to be freaking out, and even if you don't worry, you're going to walk into class and someone's going to say yeah, the average was a 70, and you're just going to be sitting there heart pounding. But understand, no one I've ever met has passed every single test. No one I've ever met has gotten an A in every single class. Just make sure you take it a little bit easy and realize it's not a defining point. Just make sure you do as much you can to get your name out there, and I honestly think you'll be perfectly fine. If you guys have questions, let me know, but I'm just going to keep mine short and sweet.
Thank you so much, Adam. Thank you. That was so insightful, especially when I am in this phase where you were, I guess, a year ago.
Yeah, it's fun though.
Definitely. Well, next we have Mr. Juan Orozco. Well, actually, he is currently in Germany, so he could not make it because it's in the middle of the night right now. But he was really interested to join in and be a part of this. So he did send the answers to the prompt questions we asked all of our alumni. I'm just gonna present the screen and read it out for you all. So he is electrical and computer engineering, BS and MS, currently working in software DevOps in the Internet of Things field with the employer Robert Bosch GmbH, hope I said it right, in Germany. We did ask them a takeaway from their undergraduate school life as an engineering student. The response is, it is important to keep your career goals in mind and approach everything you do with hard work and dedication. Be motivated and go that extra mile when possible. It pays off. Third one, we asked them for an advice for the current students. He said, focus on extracurricular activities and on gaining industry experience through internships. Once you meet the minimum GPA requirements for a job, this is what you will give you a competitive advantage over other candidates. So, of course, things don't always work out in our favor, just like right now. We were all applying for internships. We were about to start working, but then COVID hit. So things don't always go as planned. So definitely give your best, but then we just gotta leave the rest, as they say. Well, speaking of that, we also have Mr. DeCarlo Brewer, but I think even I don't see him in the chat room tonight. So, last but not the least, I will let Noe Enriquez, who served as the president for ASME during his time here at UCO, to have tell us a few words before we wind up with the event. Noe, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
So I'm still a student at UCO because I wanted to pursue electrical engineering just because I was offered jobs, especially because of my background. I was offered foreman jobs and project manager jobs with structural engineering. However, I realized that that is not something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So and especially with senior design, I sort of fell in love with electrical engineering. And I kind of realized that following something that you want to do is more important than just following the money.
Yep, definitely. That's like the biggest lesson. Money is important, but there are important things above that. So, thank you, Noe, for those last words. And with that, I'm going to thank all of you for joining in tonight. And we did go a little over time, which is actually an achievement for us. And I'm pretty sure that's going to motivate people to join in our very next event. So, wait for the next event's announcements, and you all have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you for being awesome and smart.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Sigma. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it.
No
Thanks,
problem.
guys. It's been
Thanks,
fun.
guys. Good to see you, Piper and Summer.
All right, hey,
You too. I miss you guys.
I
buddy.
miss you guys.
I miss you too. We've grown up. We're not kids anymore.
We're adults.
So weird.
We made it.